Not
All
really.
right, now that we're up and running, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody. This is week 3, not counting the intro, and we just want to make sure that you guys understand throughout this process that this entire thing is actually a story about you. It's a story that you're creating. You are the hero of this story. And all we are is your Yoda. Okay. We want to be your Yoda. We want to be, your guide that helps you figure out the process as you go through this. Now, the other thing that you're going to hear us talk about is being complete in all 3 phases of you as a person. So we want not only the physical side, but the mental side, which is also your soul, or your mind, your will, and emotions. Those are the things Phil is going to be talking to you about. And also your spirit, which is your connection to God. And those are the things that, Scott talks to you about. And these 3 things work together. A lot of people think that you're a body with a soul or with a spirit, but in reality, you're a spirit and soul with a body. Okay, so if you're not working all 3 of those areas, from the inside out, spirit to soul to body, then you're going to be left a little bit behind throughout this process, and you're going to leave something lacking there. Now, the other thing I want you to do is, as we talk about this, more than anything, it's all about setting the standard that you want for yourself. Okay, as we move through this, think less about adhering to a diet, adhering to a exercise regime of some sort, or doing the things like what Phil talks about or what Scott talks about. Instead, think more of having a standard that you set for yourself, a level of life that you want to live up to, and those standards build the habits, and then those habits build the results. Okay, so it actually is a little bit freeing to do that, because then it's not just trying to stick to all these things, but this is the standard to which I live my life, and I'm going to build habits that do that. All right, tonight I'm mostly going to be talking about strength. Okay, strength is something that people tend to have a little bit of a misconception about. They think it's for young athletes or things like that, but really anyone can get stronger. And as you get stronger, it's going to help you in every area of your life. As Mark Ripito of Starting Strength says, it's a quote that I love, but strong people are harder to kill than weak people and more useful in general. And really what he means by that is strength is really the most general physical adaptation that you can have. And what that means is when you get stronger, physically, it affects every other area of you physically. It makes you faster. It makes you more powerful. It gives you better balance, things like that. Okay, so this is not something just for the young. It's for everybody. Now, our test on strength is going to be push-ups. And your goal that I want you to set, maybe that's a long ways off for you. Maybe you're well past that, but you need to be able to probably do about 10 push-ups. Okay, that's good. It's also body weight based, because that affects your body composition too, or your body composition affects it. It will help you greatly with longevity and also function throughout your daily life. So most people that aren't an athlete or aren't somebody who care about strength that much, what they tend to say is, I don't really care about being strong, and I don't want to get bulky. And they get the idea that they're going to look like one of the guys on the screen the second they pick up a weight, and that's simply not true. It takes years and years, and in the case of these guys, some illegal chemicals to look the way they look. Okay, as far as the bulky thing, if you look at that screen, you can see the difference in size between 5 pounds of fat and 5 pounds of muscle. Muscle is much more dense than fat. Okay, and so if you think about it, if you kept your body weight the same, but you built 5 pounds of muscle and lost the same 5 pounds in fat, you're actually going to be smaller. Okay, because you're going to shrink from the fat and the muscle is going to be much smaller that replaces that fat. Okay, the good thing about building muscle in itself is you're going to increase your metabolism, which means you're going to burn more fat even when you're not doing anything. Okay, there is a significant increase in calorie burn when you build muscle, and even more so when that muscle is moved, when you start moving with that new muscle that you have. Now, really for our purposes, I don't really care about how actually strong you get. You don't need to be a power lifter or anything like that. It's more about longevity and function as you get older. Okay, so the best way to have a good quality of life as you get older is to be strong relative to your body weight. Okay, remember, we're not just worried about living longer, we're worried about living better. Okay, and as you age, the stronger you stay, the better life you'll live. It's really the difference between the guy on the top left in the wheelchair and the people on the right who are out enjoying the world at an older age. You know, on a personal note, I know this for a fact because my father, who is actually very fit, very strong for his size and age, did all sorts of activities, has recently, in the last few years, come down with ALS, and he is wasted away physically to the point where he's unable to do anything really besides read and do that kind of stuff. So, and it's simply because his body has lost the strength that it once had and the muscle that it once had. You can even see the difference in the pictures there. The scans of the thighs of two elderly people. The one on the left is someone who is wheelchair bound. Okay, the yellow is the amount of muscle and the red is the amount of fat. They are wheelchair bound versus the one on the right, which is someone approximately the same age that is completely independent and can move all on their own and do all the things in life they want to do. So you can see the significant difference in muscle and how that directly affects their ability to move themselves. Now, when it comes to strength training, I'm not going to really get into the details here. That's going to come through some videos I'm going to be sending you. I already sent a few, but we're going to add more as we go. They'll get a little bit more personalized to you, and they'll be, you know, kind of more towards working out at your house. But what I want you to start thinking about and doing is I want you to spend 2 to 3 days a week doing the 5 main movements. Okay, and I'm going to email you a link that goes over these in more detail as well. But those 5 main movements are the squat, the hinge, pushing, pulling, and carrying. Okay, and all you need to do is 2 to 3 sets of about 5 to 20 reps. It doesn't really matter what rep range you're in there, as long as it's kind of between the 5 and 20, but they need to be fairly hard. Okay, they need to kind of push you close to where you wouldn't be able to do a whole lot more each time you do them. So, and just to clarify, every time you actually do the movement, so let's say I'm doing some sort of push, every time I do that is a rep. Okay, if I do 5 in a row and then stop, that's 1 set. Okay, so I did 1 set of 5 reps. I'm asking for 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 20 reps, 2 to 3 times a week. Okay, I want you to start at the lowest regression, which means the simplest form of the movement with very little weight, and work up through the stages over time. And I'm talking like not a week, not even the 8 weeks that we're doing this, years if necessary. Move through the stages of each movement and slowly add weight. It does not, you do not have to just work yourself into the ground with this. Okay, so the first movement you can see here is the squat. Okay, the big thing on the squat, I've got all the basic directions for a squat here. The big thing you're looking for is maximal hip bend and maximal knee bend. Okay, so you want to sit back, keep your core tight. You're descending down slowly while pushing the knees out, and then you're going to drive through your heels and stand back up into a normal standing position. Okay, and you can see here on this, she's doing them with body weight. If that's what you're doing, that's awesome. Okay, that's what we want. In fact, if that's even hard for you, grab something to hold on to. Grab a doorknob or grab something along those lines, your countertop, and squat, and that will help you balance and then even pull yourself up if that's difficult. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if this is new to you. Then you can progress through to holding something in your hands. Okay, if you've got a dumbbell, that's great, but you can even see where he's using a sandbag. You can put a backpack on your back. You can have a milk jug, anything that adds a little bit of resistance. Okay, and then eventually your goal really should be to be squatting with a barbell. Okay, because that's real. Then you can start actually really working on adding weight. Okay. Any of these are great, and if you're doing them, it's definitely better than not doing them at all. The next movement is going to be the hinge. Okay, a lot of people are familiar with this through the deadlift, but what we're really looking for is maximal hip bend and minimal knee bend. Okay, so here she's just doing a body weight hinge. Now, a lot of people are worried about this movement because they're worried about hurting their back. Start very light, and I want you to make sure that your core is braced. That's where, like, if Mike Tyson was going to punch you in the stomach, your reaction would be to brace your core to absorb that. And that's really what you want to do before you add weight on any of these movements. Okay. Then you can basically hold anything you want to in your hand while keeping your butt nice and high, sitting it back, and then you'll just stand up from this movement. You can see here he's got a sandbag. Again, you can hold anything. A great way to do this is put a backpack on backwards, and now it's in front of you. Hinge forward till you feel a good stretch, and then up. You'll feel that in your hamstrings, your booty, and your lower back. Okay. The next one, some upper body movements. We've got pushing. Okay. Pushing can be done horizontally and it can be done vertically. You should probably do both in some way or another. I would start, if I was you, doing modified push-ups. If she is doing this on her countertop, in her kitchen, or a wall, that's a great place to start if you've never done this. And eventually you're working your way to regular push-ups, dumbbell presses, bench presses, and the same kind of thing with the overhead press. All right. Again, a milk jug works great. Fill it with as much water or whatever you're going to put in it as you need to. Push it. And then as you get stronger, fill it up more. Okay. And then we have pulling. Again, pulling can be horizontal and vertical. This is a big one to help get your back stronger. I would start doing movements where your chest is supported in some way. Okay. Now that may be laying down on a bench, or it may be something as simple as putting an arm down as you pull that milk jug up. Okay. And then pull-ups are one of the best exercises you can do. If you can't do those, you can actually do an inverted row like she's doing up here on the top left side. Okay. Where you're hanging from something. I've seen people hang from underneath their kitchen table doing this. And again, that's a great way to do it. And then finally, we have loaded carries. We are made to carry things. It's one of the things that separates us from all other animals. It's one of the physical things that we do better than anything else. Okay. And really anything you're doing where you have something either in your hands, in the crook of your arms, or even on your back like a backpack. And it's going to work your core. It's going to work your legs. It's going to work pretty much everything. A great way to do this too, if you are feeling good, put a backpack on and go out your door and do what they call rucking. Okay. And rucking is one of the best things you can do. It's a combination of cardio and strength training. All right. So again, carrying is good. This movement here is going to affect you more than pretty much any other movement you can do, especially if you have not been doing this. Okay. Now, here's your task. And I'm going to clarify one thing. I want to make sure you understand. Some of you may have been lifting weights for a very long time. Okay. If I was talking to Phil or Scott, two guys I know have lifted for centuries now, it seems like they've been doing this. If I was consulting with them and telling them, maybe, you're a bodybuilder, you like to do that type of movement, that's fantastic. And I would keep doing that. I would just make sure you're getting these patterns in and moving your body around as you do this. I wouldn't be leg pressing all the time or anything like that. I would be moving your body. And if you're very well qualified doing that, this works great for you, then you're probably in pretty good shape with that. Okay. So again, our task this week, 2 to 3 times, I want you to practice the main movements. You don't have to add weight if you don't feel like it. You can remove weight from yourself by holding on to something to help you if you want. And I want you to do 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 20 reps. Now, if you don't have a lot of time at once, a great way to do this would be to do a little bit each day. Maybe, maybe tomorrow you squat and push, and you get those 2 done in 10 or 15 minutes. And then the next day you hinge and pull. And then another day you do some sort of carry. You put a backpack on and walk around. Okay. And then you go back, squat and push, or however you want to do that. Just make sure you're getting each one in 2 to 3 times this week. I think you're going to see that as you get stronger, you're going to feel much better moving your body around. Okay. And with that, I'm going to give it back to Scott.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. What I want you guys to remember is what John said, the importance of all 3 of these areas working together. All 3 of these areas are important. And, if you do not work on one of them, it will not be a complete thing. And that's what we're trying to get you to understand is this all works together. And especially when we're talking about the Word of God tonight, I chose Hebrews 12, 10 through 11 in the New Living, and you can just listen if you can't see it all because of the screen, people's pictures up there. But it says, "For our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing the best they knew how. But God's discipline is always good for us so that we might share in his holiness. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful. But afterward, there is a peaceful harvest of right living for those who have been trained by it." From this scripture, we see the word disciplines in there 3 times. Okay. So there's what I want us to look at tonight is this discipline from our Christian walk and our spiritual growth. And I also want to see us from our fleshly desires and our mindset, the things that Phil and John talked to you about. Our current culture, it despises discipline and especially correction right now. They want you to believe that anything goes, it's your call. Nobody can tell you it's wrong. And you deserve the same thing as a person who doesn't make disciplined decisions. Well, the thing about discipline is correction. And, when Peter was told by Jesus to get out of the boat and walk on the water, there was 11 other dudes in the boat that didn't even try to get out, but Peter did. He started walking on the water, but then he saw wind and waves and he began to sink, and Jesus saved him. Jesus, first thing coming up, a lot of us today would think, well, he would say, "Great job. You did so good. I'm so proud of you. You almost, you did it for a while." He said, "Why did you doubt?" That is correction. And that is what is despised a lot. Correction is discipline. And so without the discipline, you're not going to achieve anything. That's what we believe with here what we're doing at IC. Discipline mentally, physically, and spiritually. Discipline, it means to teach or train up. Discipline, you see right there, is choosing what you want now for over what you want most. Most of us see this from time to time in our life. We see it in different ways. It means, again, to train up. If you're a Star Wars fan, they call him a Padawan learner. You are actually being trained spiritually to follow Christ and to be like Christ. And God trains us up through the word. And you can take that word and you can apply it to different areas. You can apply it to your diet. You can apply it to your workouts. No matter where you're at with it, you're going to have some discipline, and getting your spiritual discipline built up is going to help you immensely in those other areas. Paul speaks of correction and teaching. If you look at this picture, I picked this picture for a reason. You see this little training wheels on there. Those training wheels are like correction. They keep you upright and on the path. And so don't despise it. That's what a couple slides back. Don't despise a discipline or a correction, because it's going to keep you on the right path. And, if we don't understand that, we have to realize that's where we have these huge ups and downs, because we're not in a disciplined position. We go do it for a while, then we don't. We do it for a while, then we don't. And it could be anything from reading some scriptures that I would give you on a daily basis. It can be the gratitude journal that talks about it. It could be your workout that John just gave you. Those are the things that keep you on the path that you begin to adhere to each day, and begin to discipline yourself in those. Okay, verse 11. No discipline is pleasant while it's happening. I think everybody knows that. I think that's the biggest problem with it, is that it's not pleasant, and our flesh desires are strong. And I think we know what you feed gets stronger. If you have a stray cat show up, you can't say, I want rid of the cat, I want rid of the cat, but you keep giving it food. As long as you're giving it food, as long as you're feeding it, that cat's going to come back. As long as you're feeding a lack of discipline, you're not going to have discipline. So we have to realize that in our spiritual life, there are things that we can do. They're in our mental life and in our physical life. And so what I want us to realize is, like, for example, in our spiritual life, instead of complaining about things in our life and the world's problems, we get into the Word of God. Instead of making a choice for pizza, we're making a choice maybe for a better satiating meal like chicken and rice or something like that. Instead of doing mindless phone stuff, you're applying yourself to some of the reading that Phil has given you. These are things that you discipline, and it's not always pleasurable. It's a lot more pleasurable to eat pizza. It's a lot more pleasurable to complain about things. It's a lot more pleasurable to not work out, or just to watch TV or scroll your phone. So these are the things we have to realize. The flesh is strong, and so discipline is what keeps us going. Here's the good part. It says there's a harvest for those who have been trained by discipline. And so this is the thing that I want us to understand the most. It's not just things that are painful and hard all the time. There is a harvest. And I don't know what picture you get when you see harvest, but you think about a farmer, and he has planted this field, he's worked this field, he's put in a lot of work in planting and taking care of it. But when harvest time comes, he goes out, and then there's this whole silo full of grain or whatever that he can sell and make money on. There is a harvest for people who train discipline. This is true spiritually. This is true with your mental task and your physical tasks. With that, the task, we're going to turn this up a little bit. I have picked 3 scriptures on discipline and 3 on harvest, because I don't want us focusing only on the tough part of the discipline. I want us to keep an eye always on the harvest. What are we going to receive from this? What are we going to get? That keeps you motivated in the discipline part. There's 6 of them. It'll be 6 days before we meet again on Wednesday night. So there's one for each day. You can read it once a day. You can read it 2 or 3 times a day. But I suggest you read it and you think on it. You think about what it's saying. And get yourself built up, and get yourself built up in the fact there's a harvest coming. Just like that sign says, there's rewards ahead. And so the temporary painful denials of your flesh will lead you to a stronger person, a leaner person. When you give yourself to reading scriptures, you're going to be more spiritually strong. When you do the gratitude journal that Phil has you do, you're going to be more mentally sound. So let's look at those scriptures this week and for the next week, and let's begin to try and apply them to our life. And Phil, I'm going to turn this over to you, my friend.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Here we go. Really excited to share. Fantastic job. I'm good. We're talking today about you're creating your story. This has been our theme the whole time. Okay. You're creating your story. The first thing you did was in our intro, we asked you, we solicited as many people as we could, and we said, where's your self-esteem? Do you realize there's a hero inside of you? There's a hero inside of me. I can impact many people. I was created for a purpose. There's a hero inside of you. So many people have not believed that about themselves, and we're going to talk about it next week. We're talking about the villains in our story, but you created a character. You believed in yourself and you showed yourself. Okay. In the back end, The second week, the second week was identity. Who are we going to be? Who are we going to meet in 5 years? And that was our identity. That's the conclusion of our story. I truly believe we live in a great time. You can be anything you want to be, and you have the talents to develop that. So, where are we going? What direction? Who are we? Be that person and play that role in the story. That greatly affects your commitments. Do not, and we learned about growth mindset and fixed mindset last week. Do not identify yourself as weak. Try to institute some disciplines and wait for a month, a year, 2 years to see if you have won or you failed. That's fixed mindset. That's not how we're created. We identify with who we're going to be, and then we build trust with ourselves by daily investing in ourselves and pointing our actions in the same direction. And that's your story. Okay. It's your story. Today is about discipline. It's about growth. That's what last week was. What are you going to do? We've given you tasks, and your expression of respect and love for yourself is to be consistent in those tasks. When Scott told the story Sunday morning about Peter walking on water, I've heard that story a lot. I've talked about that story. I've taught that story. I've never heard about God's correction. As a coach, it really spoke to me. I have coaches on here on this line. I have Holly taught dance. We've all instructed people. 35 years of experience, I can tell you this. The people I believed in the most, the people that I saw their identity was the greatest, I was the most corrective on. The people I didn't see a great identity, I was very soft on. And isn't it interesting that with ourselves, if we don't see a great conclusion, we compromise on our activities. So probably the greatest thing, and if you're a parent, you know this, the greatest, most exhausting, most difficult form of love is correction. Nobody likes it. It's not fun, but it's such an expression of your belief system and commitment to that person. So get into your story. What's it take? It takes action, dadgummit. We're giving you some information, but if you're not doing those tasks, I hate to say it because I really don't want to do this with just me and Scott and John, okay? But if you're not doing the task, you're missing the boat, okay? You got to do the task. My sister Amy gave me an email or text message this morning. She's in our Sunday morning group. It really set the tempo for my day. I had a good morning routine. I went into school. I felt like I had a strong mindset, and she gave me a text. And some of you know Amy, but my sister Amy, not stereotype, she was the cheerleader. She was a college cheerleader. She was in acting. She's very expressive. And one thing I'm very proud of her, she's very positive. And her text message was this: Phil, I have always felt I've been very positive, which I would agree. But she said, I've bought into the task of gratitude journal. She goes, I am shocked at the difference it's made in my attitude by simply taking 5 minutes a day, intentionally writing down 3 things I'm grateful for, and then meditating or praying over them. So I really appreciate her doing that. It's not something I came up with. I was given it to by John Perry, who took it from Brian Kite, who, it's knowledge is out there. People that are living a progressive, positive life want you to be healthy. It's a lot of sharing, but we've got to act on it. So that's my call to acting. Make sure. And if you've messed up, that's part of it. That's part of it. But make a commitment. Get those tasks. And if we can send those tasks on PDF to you so you can print them off and write them down, or if we can send them on your Google sheets and share, whatever we can do, we're here to help you create your story. Okay. But have to do the task. Last week, really quick, fixed mindset. We're not fixed mindset. They're outcome-based people. They fear mistakes, surround themselves with affirmers. Social media has ate up with them. want to look smart. They're not worried about being smart or wise. They just want to appear to be smart, intimidated by talent at lower levels. Now we choose to be growth mindset. That's what we're transitioning. That's our identity. That's what's up on our mirror on a post-it note. DMGB, don't matter, get better. I had the opportunity to coach defense first time Coach Perry came three years ago. Biggest transition our defense, and we statistically became very good. We had athletes, okay, but we also had kids that in the prior regime were so nervous about making mistakes they froze. And we adopted that if you made a mistake, it was a learning experience, and we really celebrated growth or advancement. Pursuit of excellence, not perfection. Enjoy and celebrate others. Want to learn. Constantly aware of others and how my actions affect other people. Inspired by others, not threatened, and enjoy challenges. So that's what we covered yesterday. E plus R equals O. Here it is. Brian Kite, I learned it from John Perry 4 years ago. One of the top 10 things that have impacted my life is these 3 little letters. And Lotes, I thought it was a math problem that had no answer because I thought it had too many variables. It's event plus response equals outcome. Event plus response equals outcome. First thing we'll say is this. Some events we can control. I've got a large assignment handed down to me. I have 2 weeks to get it done, and I procrastinate till the day before. It's going to cause me anxiety. It's going to cause me stress for 2 weeks. My product's not going to be very good. I caused that event. I didn't ask for the assignment, but I caused the event. We can cause our own events, okay? We are in control of some events. If you're causing your event, make sure the outcome is positive and productive. Like Scott said, you don't have to like it. Just chase and create positivity and production in your life. The alternative is this, and as crazy as it sounds, and I'm including myself, sometimes we have a weird nature about us. We actually thrive in some of these arenas, drama and negativity. We have had some free time in my classroom. I got a group of girls, they're 4 freshmen. I've enjoyed the girls, not get to know them a lot. They've done a good job in my class. I've never seen 4 ladies with a master's degree in gossip. They take whatever free time I give them and they go after people. And I started talking to them about it, okay? It's not healthy. It's not positive. It doesn't bring us in. So events we control, make sure we create positive or productive outcomes. Now, here's the big one. Here's the big ones. The E's that happen, control the R, and then we create the O, okay? E plus R equal O originally went to you don't control the event. You don't control the event. I found out I got fired. I don't control the event, okay? What I do control is my response to the event. And my response to the event will have a direct impact on the outcome, okay? And this is really big. We waste a lot of energy, a lot of mindset trying to control events. We do it in relationships. We do it in jobs. We do it in all sorts of areas. And because we can't control the events, and good and bad events are going to happen to us. Because we can't control the event, when a bad event happens to us, the fixed mindset person complains, gets defensive, gets frustrated, disappointed, or becomes a victim. And man, do we have a lot of that going on in our society right now. The growth mindset person, okay, is in 100% control of their response. They take ownership, they look for success, and they have confidence. They build confidence. So one of the areas, a small area I've applied this to in my life is driving. I am a road rage person, or have been. I'm getting much better. And it was so obnoxious and so silly that my wife used to start calling me on the carpet. Why are you screaming and yelling? Well, because that lady over there that was texting interrupted the 4-way stop flow, okay? The problem is I was creating a response in my body, in my mindset, friction in our car. And you know what? Had no effect on that lady across this, the road that was frustrating me. Okay. One of the reasons we don't control our responses, okay, is we don't want to take responsibility. I tell my kids in class, say you don't clean your room, you don't do your homework, you show up late for curfew, but yet you want your folks to buy you a car. And when they don't, you're mad because your folks never trust you. And I try to explain to them, you've never built trust. So what I tell them, and it's kind of a Jedi thing, control the outcome by changing your behavior. I really think we can have a positive impact or control on other people. We don't control what they do, but our reaction to them can have a positive impact. So that's E plus R equals O. It's fantastic. I'm just beginning in my life. There's areas I'm continuing, but it's freedom. I don't have to be a victim. Okay. Last thing, if you have your phones out, okay, if you have your phones, you can take a picture. Inner Circle Leader Team, you've gotten emails, 417-459-9339. Give me some feedback on the books. We talked about books. We wanted you to read. Part of your task last week was gratitude journal and then 10 minutes of nutrition for your mind, okay? This is a class library we started as a result of Sunday. Susan's read Ego is the Enemy and On Fire. And then she's getting ready to read Atomic Habits. Okay, Winning the Middle Game is another one I gave to her. Amy's going on Staying Full of God. It's from her church, okay, which is fine. But talk about giving you a positive mental outlook. I am currently on Comfort Crisis and building a story brand because these are two things. Comfort Crisis was given to me by John. Coach Perry, who's my reader mentor, reads about 100 books a year. And I always go to him and say, give me 4 or 5 books, and he gives them to me. Okay. If you need perspective change, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, tough read, concentration camp, and how a guy kept his sanity and his positive outlook. On Fire, John O'Leary, young little boy from St. Louis that burned a lot of his body, and how that event of his life and how he responded to that event has set him up for success the rest of his life. Atomic Habits, You Can't Go Bad, Win the Day, Anything Batterson, Make Your Bed, McCraven, Just One More, Ed Milet. These are all phenomenal on creating habits. If you're struggling being consistent, I would read these. These are vitamins, Selking, Dweck, Holiday, pretty deep read. Doctors in Psychology, but it's going to buy you into the system. They actually get into how the brain responds to these things we're asking you to do. Then I think in my book, Anything Maxwell, Batterson, and Covey. These are podcasts, but you can look your own. Craig Rochelle is one of my favorites. Ed Milet. I just gave you the ones that I listen to while I walk. Exercising and podcasts, you double dip, double stack. Okay. Here's your task. 3 entries in your gratitude journal. Keep it up every morning, every day. And John Golden, I had this discussion. I was talking to loads of track practice. I repeat myself a lot. I'm more worried about being honest with what I'm grateful for than I am trying to be creative. This is not a, who creates the biggest list or this and that. Pause, meditate, pray. It'll come to you. Give you 3. We are so blessed. And then spend 12 minutes. That's jumping up a little from 10 minutes. Okay. But we're going to keep going. Make it a habit, because what's going to happen is we're going to end up with good solid 30 minutes by the end of 8 weeks. Okay. Okay. That's what our task sheet looks like. I am done. Appreciate your time. Action. It's your story. It's your dadgum story. Start writing it. Start writing it. It's overwhelming. We already know what the end is. Scott, John, you got anything? Good.
No, sir. I'm good.
Thanks for coming on. We'll see you guys next week. Good luck.